It's a pleasure to introduce our next speaker. Last time we were here in this beautiful room at the New York Stock Exchange, we had Brian Chesky, who's the co-founder and CEO of Airbnb, and we had a great dynamic conversation. I think today is going to be very similar, having now spent a few moments with Adam Neumann. Adam is the co-founder and CEO of WeWork, which provides workspace, community, and services to more than 100,000 members in more than 40 cities around the world. Along with co-founder Miguel McKelvey, Adam started WeWork in 2010 just up the street in the Soho neighborhood, creating a workspace environment that was intended to create a community, believing that people could accomplish more together than perhaps they would on their own, and I think that's proven to be a highly successful formula for him. Adam has a vision now to expand across the globe with his network of spaces and connect its members through technology and empower them to achieve their dreams and their goals. And previously, Adam was co-founder of Big Tent, which developed children's apparel, but he did something, we were just talking about this at the table, that I don't know that anybody in this room has ever accomplished. I mean, there are several members I know of our economic club who graduated from their university and then did the commencement speech, but I've never met anyone before who's done it in the same day. And that's Adam, because Adam went actually back to school because he was interrupted by all of these entrepreneurial ideas that he had, left school, came back to finish his degree because, as he said, he likes to finish what he begins. Went back to Baruch College, finished his degree, and upon graduation, several years, many years after he started, perhaps, he was asked to give the commencement speech, which he did on the same day that he graduated. I congratulate Adam for doing that, for going back, for getting his bachelor's degree, while also, by the way, along with his wife, Rebecca, raising 4 children in the New York area and creating a company that's now valued by investors at about $17 billion. So we look forward to your remarks today, Adam. And today's format is a conversation, and that conversation will take place between Tom Farley, who's our member here, of course, and the president and CEO of the New York Stock Exchange. And Tom is armed with his own questions. Already started at the table, as a matter of fact. And he's also received questions from our members so that your questions that you've submitted will be asked as well. So, gentlemen, the stage is now yours. Enjoy the conversation, as I'm sure we will.
Thanks, buddy. You got it.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you. I'll take that up.
Thanks so much, Terry. Thanks for your leadership at the Economic Club. Good afternoon, all of you. When we sat down at the beginning of this year with Barbara of the Economic Club to decide the agenda for 2017, the first name we put on the list and circled was Adam Neumann of WeWork, and you're about to see why that's the case. But part of the reason is his life story. You know, one of our favorite parts about working here, actually, all my colleagues, is that you see that some of the misperceptions about free enterprise are just that, they're misperceptions. And some of the most inspirational stories, they come from people not who were born on third base or with a silver spoon in their mouth, but amazing people making a difference with really interesting backgrounds. I think the biggest IPO we had in 2014 was a guy who was poor in rural China outside of Hangzhou, who now runs a $350 billion company and has allowed 3 million people to rise up out of poverty, Jack Ma. Our largest IPO of 2015 was a guy born in Brooklyn in 1959. None of his brothers and sisters went to college, none of his aunts and uncles nor his parents went to college, and now he's running a very successful KKR-backed $17 billion company sitting in this room, Frankie Bisignano. And you heard about Brian Chesky. It's a guy who's born to social workers in Schenectady, New York. Can barely even pronounce it. And today it brings us to Adam. Before I turn to Adam, the man of the hour, let me do a little bit more in warp speed about his upbringing. Terry certainly started us. Adam was born in Israel. His mother was actually born in Poland. Pardon me, his grandmother was born in Poland, and as an infant moved to Israel. Her aunts and uncles did not move from Poland, and tragically, and a very important side note, all died in the Holocaust. And so that's from where Adam was formed. He grew up in Israel, moved here in fourth grade. In fourth grade, had a difficult transition to America, went back to Israel. He lived in 13 different homes, spent most of his time in a kibbutz in Israel, moved back to the United States when he was 18, where he went to Baruch. Again, one other side note, if any of you are New Yorkers and you're looking for a cause to support, Baruch is a great one. Median income of the parents there. It's our Baruch friends. Median income, $43,000. Adam started 2 businesses here. One was a woman's shoe company with a collapsible heel. Shockingly, did not work. The second, called Crawlers with a K, was onesies for babies with knee pads. What was the slogan?
Just because they don't tell you doesn't mean they don't hurt.
Also did not work, shockingly. And then he started this little company called WeWork. So Adam, that's really the lead up. It would have been great to hear you tell that, but we have limited time, and I really wanted to hear more about how that formed you as a leader and then move into your business, ease into the business. Help us understand, as a leader of men and women, and as a member of the community, and as a leader of WeWork, how has all of that really amazing story, an odyssey, if you will, formed you? What is your worldview and how to lead?
So first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for coming. I know everyone's very busy. It's lunchtime in the middle of the week, not an easy time. So thank you very much. I'll just make a few corrections. I actually came back to New York when I was almost 23 after serving in the Israeli military for 5 years, so not 18. So I joined Baruch a little older, which is important to note, because when you're 23, you see the world a little different from 18, and had the opportunity to observe the 18-year-olds, and I think it's a lot of what led me to some of the things I did today. Also, serving in the Israeli army taught me what it means to be part of something greater than yourself, taught me that great leaders need to know how to be followers, great bosses need to be soldiers first, and if you can be a great soldier, then you can also be a great officer. But if all your life you're just the boss, you're just leading, you're missing something. And one more correction I want to see, you said about the people starting at third base, and not everybody does. I definitely come from a very simple background, but I have observed that sometimes children that actually come from very affluent homes have an almost even more difficult time because the expectations are there, because the parents did these great things, because sometimes in life, when we get handed a lot of things, there's this concept called bread of shame. If you don't earn what you receive, it creates a short circuit. So I actually think, and I think of my kids a little bit, and I'm so blessed to have them, I'm not sure how they're going to be able to drive the same kind of excitement that I right now have, as every day is a new day, every day is a fight, every day is a win, some days are losses. And it's just a fascinating thing to say, so I actually appreciate that challenge also, and I see it from all sides. The way it's affected me is we talk a lot and we work about culture. And you spoke about the fact before that I was graduating, and I gave a speech, and in that speech I spoke very simply about the blueprint for a meaningful life. And in that blueprint I said, first work on yourself. If you're not growing personally, you're not going to be a good person to work with, work for, be the partner, be a friend. Then I said it's your spouse, who you're going to marry or who's going to be your partner, because whoever you choose to be your partner is going to affect your entire life. You need to choose someone that calls you on your bullshit, that loves you for the potential of who you're going to be, not who you are today. That's obviously not only there where you're up, but there where you're down, and someone expects you to be the same. I afterwards spoke about kids and said that they all have superpowers, and kids are, if you know how to unleash your kids' superpowers, well then one day they will unleash yours, and that's most. And then next I spoke about friends. And I said, if you don't have one great friend in this world, you're missing. If you have a great friend, just like a good partner that calls you on your bullshit and is there when you're down, not just when you're up, then go get another one. Only after you take these 4 things, I believe business comes. Because if you don't have this solid foundation, then a day will come in business where it will all seem lost and there'll be no one to go to, or you'll just not build a meaningful business. From that point, and this is what my life taught me, moving 13 places. I come from a difficult home. My parents got divorced when I was very young. There's a lot of things that occurred when I was in my early stage. And I understand how hard it is to be the new kid and how hard it is to have the difficulties. I'm also very dyslexic. I couldn't read and write until the 3rd grade. So I have a lot of appreciation to challenges. And I've found that people with challenges sometimes make the best employees, best leaders, because they've learned how to overcome those challenges. And every one of my life, when I came to New York, I was angry about my history. and why did this happen to me, and why this and why that, and I came to New York saying, I deserve, I deserve, I deserve. Nothing worked that way. When I met my wife, she shifted my thinking, and she was like, you don't deserve anything that you don't earn. And as she taught me that, and I started earning, and I saw what a fulfilling experience it is to actually work hard and actually earn. And then you add to that doing something meaningful for the world while you're doing it, so you're not wasting your time. That brought me to where I am today. I stopped being angry about my past. I became happy. That past made me who I am today. And from that point on, I was able to build this company with the help of our employees and our executives and my co-founders and my wife that represents basically everything I just told you.
The very first time
That's a
I met you.
mouthful of an answer.
No, it was great. It was great. The very first time I met you, you talked about your wife. In your Baruch speech, you talk a good deal about your wife. In fact, nearly half of the talk is devoted to her. And you've always talked about friends and the importance of community. On the other hand, you're a hard-driving CEO. I was watching a video of yours where the typical Monday was described as arriving at 7 a.m. and going home at 3 a.m. We've seen this week with other hard-driving CEOs and companies with a lot of hours that the culture can crumble. So help me reconcile family, friends, but also hard-driving, demanding a lot of your employees.
So first of all, you'll be happy to know that this Monday I finished at 2 a.m. Not at 3. It was a good Monday. I think it goes back to exactly what I just said. If you have a solid foundation, if you have your priorities set right, then you're ready to also work hard and also drive a strong culture and also grow. And when a strong culture is in place, then you can deal with a lot. You can deal, and I was sitting next to my new friend, and we talked about retail going up and down, and he said, I saw it in 2001, and I saw it in 2008, and every time everybody told me we're done, and we're still here, stronger than ever before, and we'll do it again, and I believe you will, and maybe we'll do it together, so I'm looking forward to it. But when you have a strong culture and a strong base, you can deal with anything, and this is what's important about it. These companies we hear about did not break because they're hardworking. The challenges, and they're not broken, by the way. Everyone's now talking about broker. I know 3 people. I only talked to 4 people today. 3 of them took Uber just to get here. So I don't think it's going to break that quickly. But what I do think is, if you build an amazing culture, one that people can give you feedback, one that works hard but also has a great time, then you will deal with the tough times when they come. And that's what's really important. And if you do it right, by the way, working hard is fulfilling. Everyone here, I know there are a lot of, you would not be here. There's no one sitting here right now who's not a hard worker. You couldn't get there. And maybe Bill, because he's dad. No, Bill. Bill is my close friend and an extremely hard worker, actually. Couldn't let me go now, because I had to close the deal. But if you do that, then you'll get to the right place. And I think that's the culture we're all looking for in our companies. And let's not look at working hard as a negative. Let's look at it as an uplifting opportunity for us to be better.
Just one more question on culture, and then we'll move into some more of the brass tacks business questions. Obviously, I had a strong mother in your life, and your wife, who I've heard so much about, and it's clear you love very much, and she's been instrumental. I love that how you describe her kind of calling BS on you in your early days, where your pursuit was just about money and...
Still does on a daily basis. Sometimes too much. I have a team, I have a few people that help me. We all help manage me to get home and have the limited amount of BS called on whatever my actions were that day. So we try to manage.
So you're at the intersection of 2 worlds, real estate and tech, that are very male dominated, I'll say. Talk to us about the role of women in your company, and in particular the role of women in leadership at your company, and how you think about that.
So I'm gonna use a specific one. Her name is Jen Berendt. She was actually my lawyer when I raised money from Benchmark. She made a tremendous term sheet, which is why one of the reasons we are at the position we are today is our controlling vote in the company was established when we raised money. I didn't understand. The day she met me, she said, I'm building this as back then we used to say $1 billion company, sounded like a big number. Still is a big number, in case anyone's wondering. Still is a big number. And over time, after 2 years of working together, she called me one day. She said, I should be your general counsel because not only can I bring a lot to the table, but also you're missing women on your team, and it's going to bring a different attitude. And I was very open to it. She joins as general counsel. The biggest mistake I did is it took me 2 years to understand that she's a lot more than a general counsel. She's one of the best leaders in our company. Today, she's our chief culture officer, which means her job is to think of culture all day long. Now, HR reports into her, legal reports into her, internal services of the company reports into her. But she has this amazing way of bringing culture into center stage, and we've been talking about culture for the past 3 years. And for us, as we hear everybody talking about it now, we're like, are you serious? Is there anything else you were working on? And she says a lot about women leaders, that when I wanted to hire a general counsel, there were 10 candidates in New York City that could fit a high-growth company like us. 1 was a woman, 9 were men, just because they were the ones with the proper history in their careers that could lead you to that. If I didn't choose her, I would have chosen a man, not because I wanted to, but because there wasn't any other choice. So when we work, we like to say that right now we're bringing in the most talented women in the world at an early stage, and we're going to grow them all as leaders. And as they grow, not only are we going to have a lot more women leaders internally, but all of your companies are going to come to companies like us and say, we want more of that, but not because we were told that we need a woman board member. That's not the right way. Because they're the most professional, because they fit the job, because they're going to do better, which, by the way, from our internal experience, we usually do better with women executives. I don't want to offend anyone else, and women employees. Has to do something with ego, but we can talk about it another time. And that's how we bring up. WeWork has 49.7% employees that are women, and by the end of this year, we'll have over 50% women, just because we think it's better for the company, not for any branding reasons.
Thank you. We're here at the New York Stock Exchange with a lot of proud New Yorkers. It feels like, with respect to high growth companies, tech companies, it's been waiting for Godot a little bit. When is New York going to have its moment? Maybe this is really and truly the start. We had the Yext IPO earlier this year. If all goes well and holds true to form, we expect the Blue Apron IPO over the next few weeks. We have you here today. There's other great private New York companies, AppNexus, Mongodb. Was it helpful being in New York building this business? Was this a nourishing environment for you in building this company?
What I'm about to say is a fact. WeWork could have not been built in any other city on this earth, and now that we are in almost 50 cities already around the globe, and we'll be in 100 in a few years, I know this. We've taken the time to learn about every single city for multiple reasons. First of all, I know it's an old saying, but it is true. If you make it here, you really can. Make it anywhere. This city is tough. This city is real. The numbers are real, everything. So people a lot of time talk about valuation. Forget valuation. When we take a building, there's a base rent, and then there's an income, and then there's math. And if that math doesn't work, then you're out. In case you're wondering, the toughest, sharpest, I don't want to call them sharks because they're my closest friend, but the toughest people on this earth are some of these real estate leaders. And right here in New York City is where you train the best of the best. So we got trained here. And then when we went to do our first deal outside of New York, and the landlord was so nice to us, and we got anything we wanted. I was like, wow, where have we been? But then we got to learn an important lesson, and this is a lesson in partnership, and it's a lesson that I learned from my friend Bill Rudin. And it's in a partnership, it's not about always winning and coming up on top. It's about both sides having a common ground where both sides can win. And we made a few deals where we won too much, and those deals are the worst deals we've ever made. And today we want to come into a deal and both sides win. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, technology. Yes, it's hard to find tech talent here today, but if you have a great company, there is tech talent in New York, and you'll attract it because there's not that many choices. So it's good with that. And separate from that, Mayor Bloomberg at the time was the mayor. He recognized us early. He opened the gates for us. And it was just, I really don't think it could have been done anywhere. And now is the fact that New York is there are going to be a lot of high growth companies in New York. Let's not measure the success, even though I know where we are today, just by their public valuation. Let's also talk about what companies are going to make the biggest, most meaningful change in the world. And they're getting incubated, grown, and built right here in New York. And over time, we promise not to disappoint also.
Fabulous. Let me give a little bit of background to the group here. For those of you who have been living under a rock that aren't familiar with the WeWork business, it's really remarkable. And I want to hit some of the basics, and pardon me if Adam has to correct me on a few because it's a private company. But they have 180 WeWork spaces, and so that's the core business that presumably nearly all of us are familiar with. They have 2 WeLive. So really a nascent business, one here in New York, and one, where's this?
Crystal City.
In Crystal City.
Right outside of DC.
The business is now 55 to 60% US, which I found very interesting. In other words, international makes up the rest, a very meaningful component of the business. The average member pays $650 a month, or $8,000 a year, and that produces, I believe on a unit basis, so on a particular site, about a 40% margin.
My head of communications, you
Yeah.
see that look? You
No
see that
comment.
look? That's the
My
no,
word.
That's the no comment look. But
My
let's
words,
just say
not his.
It's an extremely strong business model.
Yes.
Financially, not just spiritually.
And again, my words, not his. Round numbers could get to about $1 billion run rate revenue in this year, 2017.
That I'm happy to say. We
Okay.
said last year we're going to break $1 billion run rate this year, and we will keep our word.
20 million square feet under management. The last raise was at 600 million. At 600 million raise at a 17 billion, more or less, $17 billion valuation, and the company has raised $1.8 billion during the company's life. And how many employees?
2,200 employees today.
2,200 employees. I mean, truly amazing. In fact, I'll give you a round of applause for what you've built.
He's
And
about to go
Adam's
in
a
for the
friend of
tough
mine. Every
questions.
time we get together, I love it. I sing his praises to everyone. I mean, you can see why we're excited to have him. Incredibly charismatic. But I got to ask some tough questions up here. Yeah. So look, I know some very smart real estate people who swear by you and they swear by WeWork, present company included. Rich Gomel joined you from where he's running his own real estate fund at JP Morgan. Michael Gross was the CEO of Morgan's Hotel Group. Artie was in senior positions at multiple companies. Smart people believe in the business. On the other hand, Barry Sternlicht, Sam Zell, a few others haven't been quite so complimentary. And the criticism typically comes in one of a couple forms, but at the most basic, you're in a business where you're going out and you're securing long-term leases where you have a long-term expenditure, and you have very short-term revenue obligations, $650 a month. And the criticism goes something like, wait till Adam sees a downturn. How do you respond to that?
First of all, thank you for asking me that question. I hope you go a little harder afterwards.
We haven't got to the IPO.
It's okay. I'm excited. I'm excited for that one. First of all, the two names that you just said, I read with this. In WeWork, we talk a lot about the way. So let's talk about New York. We're all here doing business together. We're companies. WeWork's a private company. What value do you drive by actually going and telling the world what works and what doesn't work about another company that you have no access to their numbers? You probably don't understand their business model, and this one's a great one. And it's probably your tenant. Put aside if we have a friendly relationship, we have drinks together, and we're all nice to each other. And this is a good lesson for all us young business people here. We, not me. If you're about to say something and there's no value added to what you're going to say, keep it in. There's no reason. If you want to say something positive, you want to say something uplifting, do it. If you're an investor and it's your fiduciary duty to put your foot down, or if you're an analyst, then do that. But if you're just going to express an opinion about something you might not know a lot about, especially if that person is buying something from you, don't do it. So the first thing I think is that's my first answer to those criticisms.
If you don't have something nice to say,
If you don't have something nice to say, and if you don't have the knowledge, if that person is buying something from you, that's an important one. If that person is a customer, and let's say that person is going to be the largest tenant on earth, it just doesn't make sense. Put that piece aside, because the comments were still made. So I would love to react to the comments. A few things that if you wanted to ask yourself, don't think about the fact that it's a month-to-month commitment, which is not even accurate anymore, but used to be accurate. What is the renewal rate? And it's in the very high 90s. And that's the real question to ask. And what certainty do we have on future cash flows is number one. Number two, in the past, we used to say we're in 1,000 different industries. And when a downturn comes, it comes in one on the other. Number three, you just spoke about our very high margins. We didn't give an exact number, but we said it's very high, which means there's a lot of room to compress. Number four, these comments are old because, so I love this stat. In 2015, 0%, or actually 1% of WeWork business was long-term enterprise commitments, meaning north of 12 months, and I'm talking 5 years and even 10 years. And these are management deals or enterprise deals that are coming into WeWork to grow. So that was 1% in Q4 of 2015. It was 20% in Q4 of 2016. It's been 30% in the past 3 months, and these are extremely long-term commitments, so the whole theory behind that is not true. And what's fascinating about that is the largest organizations on earth are coming today to WeWork, not just to solve space as a service. So if you're a company today, you don't know if you're gonna go bigger or smaller, you're flexible. And meanwhile, office space is this fixed thing. So we're gonna give you this flexibility, but they're not just coming to us for that. And they're not just coming to us because we save them 30 to 50% of their cost. And they're not just coming to us because by 2020, you're gonna need to put these leases on your balance sheet. And it's gonna look like a lot of debt, and it's not gonna be managed well. A lot of CFOs don't like that. They're also coming to us for energy, for culture, for employee satisfaction, for retention. If you have the happiest, most fulfilled employees, they will work harder, they will actually be fulfilled, and they will come up with the next great idea that's going to reinvent your company.
Well, one in particular that I want to hear more about is IBM. So in my hood, IBM, as I understand it, has leased up an entire building, and that comes on if I remember correctly, it was about a year and a half ago. The Journal ran a whole article about how IBM was redesigning their workspace, and they had hired designers to help them think through a more collaborative environment. And then the next thing I hear is they're actually coming to you, and they're leasing up an entire building. Can you tell us more about that?
So I'm getting that look again. That's the look of what I'm allowed and not allowed to say. But here's what I can. Here's what I can. This is the. You think as a private company you could do whatever? Well, no. I know I can't do whatever I want. I would like to, but I can't, because you have to restrain, which is not always easy. But here's what I can tell you. If a large organization, well, first I will say one thing about IBM, because I happen to know their new CMO. Her name is Michelle, and she's a superstar, and she took that job to help reinvent and sort of recommunicate everything that they're doing, and I believe in her immensely. And I do believe in the decisions IBM is making now. And the first thing you need to say is admit I need to change, and then from that point you can go there. But put that aside, think of any company like IBM. Their business is not hiring these designers and reinventing the workspace. All we breathe, think, and talk about is culture, space, and how we bring people together. So it makes a lot more sense. Just like you don't do your own cleaning or your own F&B, your own food and beverage, or your own, these days with AWS or IT in that matter, you don't need to do your own space. Real estate is a very complex thing, and leave it to the professionals, and let us come in and not only fix it for you and save you money, but actually give you a better culture and a better environment. And that's why it represents 30% of the business. If we let it, it would be 95% of the business within 12 months. We're not gonna do that because the small businesses are extremely important, always have been and always will be, but the demand is bigger than anything we can supply.
Let me go to kind of the second theme that you'll hear, a critical theme, which is, I'm perhaps channeling my inner Warren Buffett, which is the question of what is your moat? And I've heard the narrative, Adam is incredibly charismatic, he has surrounded himself with charismatic people, but it's fundamentally a business model that can be recreated with similarly charismatic and sharp management. What is the moat that you're building from a business perspective, particularly with respect to the core WeWork business?
So first of all, anyone here or as a global business knows that if you want to start a business at zero and in 7 years be in 50 cities and 15 countries, this past year we opened 10 new languages in 1 year. Just 10 new languages, 10 new websites, 10 new legal departments, 10 new, we need to deal with, when you do construction, you deal with a lot of rules and this, and starting with China, which is not an easy place, to Tel Aviv, which is maybe even harder. And so doing that is extremely complicated. We've spent over $1 billion ourselves of cash. Landlords have spent over $3 billion. So you're $4 billion that you have to spend. We've spent tremendous amount of energy on technology. Our product is amazing. You're able to press a button today and enter space anywhere in the world through a credit system, and you're able to meet any partner, entrepreneur, employee, or customer that you might need. But most importantly, we've built a community. And once you build a community and things come together and you're starting to get the network effect that we now have, it's very hard to slow that down, and you could have local people doing something very local in one city, but to press that button and become global is very difficult. Last and most important, if you take real estate as an asset class, $191 trillion asset class, and you give us 1% of it, we would be right now the largest company on earth. And we're not looking to own 80% of anything. We don't need to do that. Not only that, if someone did a great job, we want to be their friends, we want to be their partners, potentially we could acquire them. We're looking for that great story that you're telling. We haven't seen that. So I think it's extremely hard to replicate, but if anyone can and will, in any way. All we want to do is be a we, not a me, and just work together, because WeWork's mission is to create a world where people make a life and not just a living. And if I just told you I can only hit 1% of the world on the best day, then who's going to take care of the other 99%? And we want to change the world, so bring it right on.
I want to pick up on two themes there, international and the build out, because I actually think there's a lot of misperceptions about the build out. So let's start there. First misperception is that WeWork, by the way, having lunch next to Adam and having him coach me on how we did the seating all wrong here he 3 or 4 times he was very.
Well, it bothers me because the center of energy in this room is right here and no one's sitting there. And it's right in front of us. And it's these little details that we pay attention to. And this is how you bring people together. And we have people sitting there facing the wrong direction. And there's enough room for all of us to get closer.
The last time Adam was here a few months back, he said, "Do you mind if we take a walk around the building?" So we kind of walked. He just wanted to see it. We walked around, and he goes, "Do you mind if I don't walk with you, and I just walk by myself?" And he walks over to my assistant and a nice woman sitting next to him. No introduction. I'm not there. He's asking him, how is your energy level? What could we change about? I walk over and they go, "Who is that crazy person?" Oh, that's Adam. That's Adam. So on the asset light, I think there's a lot of misperceptions about a build out. People think that a WeWork space is open, everything's cubes. In reality, something like 70, 80% of people are in offices.
So only 10% of WeWork space is under this open environment that everyone's talking. And there's a misconception about the open environment because every huge enterprise in the world is changing all their designs to open environments. Stop, don't do it. It doesn't actually work the way you think that it works. People still need privacy. There's a lot of complications behind it. There's a trend, and suddenly someone says, "Oh, we're all going to do the same thing." One guy actually, or a team, gets the trend, and everybody else is just copying. Yeah. And they miss the most important thing, which is the energy and the happiness and fulfillment of those employees. So only 10% is actually pure open, and the rest are different versions of enclosed spaces or common spaces that everybody can share, but not space that we count as associated with a person.
Got it. And in the old days, I would hear times, well, Adam has a really big build out with every facility, and you have to look, how's he going to amortize that, and is he going to make money on a cash basis? But tell us a little bit about this asset light strategy. We have our mutual great friends, the Rudins here. As a side note, I moved into a new condo last year. Michael Rudin is he's the chairman of the board. That's a little bit like having LeBron James at the pickup game at the park. So I appreciate your service. But you're doing a really interesting project with these guys. Tell us about the asset light strategy generally, and will we see more of it?
Look, the deal we're doing in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and it's been published already, but that's an even bigger than asset light. That's asset right. They are doing us the favor and the great honor of building a whole building, and that we're going to take more than 60% of, maybe even more, but we'll try to live a little bit for some extra upside. So it's more than just building. Now you're seeing that landlords are willing to build ground-up developments that cost hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to bring us inside, which makes a lot of sense because in real estate, if you have a tenant at hand, then you're moving a lot of the speculation out. But the other piece is it used to cost us, whatever our cost of construction used to be, it's today 50% of that price because we've spent a lot of technology, energy, and build a global supply chain that's able to lower costs. And where landlords used to give us 50% of the build out, today the average is 80 to 85%. And in most new places we're entering, it's 100%. So India is a full partnership. And by the way, we're opening our first India location in July, which is a big deal. We're opening our first Brazil location also in July, which is a big deal for us. And those are 2 new countries. Israel is 100% partnership, so 100% asset light. We have a new form called the management deal where we partner with landlords. And really the cost of construction has become less and less of a problem for us. Again, if someone wants to replicate it, go convince a landlord to pay for your build out. Okay, good luck. Because they shouldn't. In a normal world, they shouldn't. If you prove that by coming in, you'll increase the value of the asset, which we've proven over 100 times, then that's a different story. Then you're doing a positive business transaction, and that should occur.
We're now a customer. Member, pardon me. We're now a member of WeWork, because we found utility in our kind of far-flung offices. So, for example, we're a member in Sydney. How has it been different to form that culture? I mean, you go into a WeWork here in New York, and it's special. The community's there. It's crackling. You feel it. How is that different in Sydney, Paris, Beijing? India?
So I think, again, and this is for anyone here who has a global business, I'm not inventing anything. The toughest thing in WeWork when you enter a new global market is understand the local culture. The biggest mistake we could do as an American or a New York company is walk into a new country, let it be Beijing or let it be Sydney, and say, we know, we're the strong American entrepreneur, we know we know everything, we know the answers, and we're gonna win. That's a great way to fail. When we go into new countries, we actually go very open-minded. We know that we don't know, and we try to learn the local culture. The secret of success for us is take the time to learn that culture and admit when you make mistakes and just keep growing and keep changing. And we learned that early on when we went to Boston. And we thought, oh, Boston, New York, same culture. And it was not the same culture. And it took us a second to understand that the Bostonians would not be happy with us until we hired a local leader. And once we did hire a local leader, the whole thing changed. Boston is one of our strongest markets in the world right now. We can't get enough of Boston. And that's the way you do it, and that's how we did it.
Without looking at Jen, when is your IPO going to be?
I can't comment on that, but I can tell you that it will be. There will definitely be an IPO.
So I do want to dig a little deeper, just the obvious setting in the New York Stock Exchange, but in general, people are very interested. And there has been a theme where the greatest growth companies, and it's a relatively small number, but you know the names, Brian Chesky.
Wait, I thought you were going to ask me when you will go public, where are you going to do it?
No?
Isn't that the right,
Yeah,
isn't that the right question?
When you go public, where are you going to do it?
Well, I can't answer that either, but I can tell you that you are, without a doubt, the most persistent and the CEO that has talked to me the most times, made friends with me, got to know me, brought me into the space, taught me what he does. So I can tell you that you've been doing a great job.
I've got a head start.
You've been doing a great job developing a relationship.
That was not planned.
This is how we build businesses. It's his business, and it's very important to do. And the reason I actually enjoy our relationship, you've done it genuinely. You told me from the first day that you would like me to go public here. There's no I'm going to be your friend. And you're very serious about it. And by the way, I drive not only pleasure from our relationship, but also you teach me things. I learn when we meet, and you've taught me about other IPOs and other things, and I just appreciate it.
I appreciate you saying that. Wow, that was not planned. Thank you. So I probably should therefore ask him a really easy question, but I'm not going to. So it has been rumored, not even rumored, written about in the press that SoftBank will invest in you. I know that you can't comment because Jen has told me that. But amongst the things that have been reported, again, I'm not asking you to comment, are that it would include a secondary portion. In other words, this is no longer just WeWork raising $1.8 billion. This is Adam Neumann and employees and maybe even early investors selling some of the heroic gains that they've earned. The question I have isn't about whether it's happening or not with SoftBank, truly. I'm not putting you in an awkward spot. But why would one do a secondary as opposed to going public? And I ask you that because that is something that that's a question that many companies ask, and I'm just wondering if you have any particular insight on that.
So first of all, I think it is an excellent and very relevant question. I do want to point to something you said. You said it has been written about. We do know that things that are written are not always true. It's important to remember that.
Fake news.
I didn't say fake news, even though it's a great term. But not everything. We've experienced personally things written about us in the past that are complete false.
Sure.
And it's important to remember that when we all pick up our phones or our newspapers and read, just remember that piece. But here's my opinion about secondary. And I'll use us as an example, but I'm talking about the whole category. But in WeWork, we have employees. Some of them are sitting. I'm seeing them right here. Who started with us on the first day we started. They've been with us for 7 years. And they vested after 5 years, and they never asked for more equity, and very few employees actually left us for a reason of we're going to go to the next thing, not because there's different type of problems. But our early loyal employees, we pride ourselves that most of them have stayed. We pride ourselves that they have not actually come and asked for more equity. And one of the secret of success is when someone deserves more, give it to him before they ask, because that's good leadership. And they, in return for joining us, they took lower salaries. They worked very hard hours. They gave up something to be part of this mission. And therefore, I do believe it is our responsibility to think back at them and say, how can we also take care of you? And when I think of secondary, and when I think, and we're extremely grateful, I know as a fact that we could be nowhere without our employees. As CEOs say this sometimes, and leaders say this, we know it. We know it to the bottom, but to the depth of our soul, and we're so grateful for that. And therefore, and now I'm talking about secondary in general, because we have seen some companies do secondary. Like everything in life, if you have the right culture, the right plan, and the right thought process behind it, it could be an event that uplifts the company, makes everybody fulfilled and happy, makes everybody work harder, and drives an even bigger return for investors. If you do it wrong, though, and you do it then, and it has done, and I have seen those examples also, it can be and has been sometimes disastrous. So I fully understand that, but I support that as a concept when done in an extremely thoughtful way that's going to uplift the employees, take care of the customers, and therefore take care of the investors in a bigger way.
Thanks. We're approaching the end of our talk, so I'm going to do a couple rapid-fire questions that if I didn't get to, I'd be kicking myself. One thing we haven't talked at all about, and yet it's something that, around the water cooler we like to talk about, is We Live, because it's just an interesting, concept. But yet you only have two. And I asked Bill Rudin, how's that going? And he said from his perspective, the one that's open is going great. So why is it you only have two?
First of all, we pay on time. Second of all, which is very important.
It's Bill Rudin's building.
It's Bill Rudin's building, and he took a risk on us doing the first one, and we're actually 100% full with 100% waiting list, which is amazing. And
so why aren't there 50?
I don't know if you saw, Bill, we just opened the retail, the basement just opened, everything. It's moving forward very quickly. By 2030, 60% of the world population is going to live in major cities. That's approximately another 1 billion people that are going to move into major cities. Under the 80-20 rule, 80% of that, 800 million of those people are going to go to basically 200 cities. All those cities around the globe, including New York City, are not ready. This is in the next 13 years. These cities are not ready to receive these amount of citizens. And we know that people are going to need to live with less space for a variety of reasons, and not just the we generation all wants to live in major cities. It's not just the millennials, it's also their grandparents. Everybody wants to live in the city, stay close to the community, be part of it. And therefore a solution is needed. And that's where we live, and that's the logic is. It is an extremely complicated thing to do. It is extremely more expensive. Everything about it is tougher, and controlling or helping create a great residential environment and community is very difficult. The reason there are only two, there are actually multiple under development and construction around the world. We've just not been public about it, but they're starting to come. But the truth is, as opposed to WeWork, which we woke up one day and we're like, we're gonna do this. We felt that for our members' sake, We Live, you're touching their home, it's so private, it's such a personal experience, we should take the time and perfect a product. And it's against my nature. My nature is go, and anybody, again, my employees who are here know, I come up with an idea, we come up with an idea, we'll execute the next morning. It can be a very big idea, a huge change. And when it came to We Live, I was urged by both my board members who play a very active role in our organization and do a great job, and also by all of our employees and executives to do this, to take our time and do it more than right, to bring to the world a product that will change the world. And that's what we're doing with We Live, but expect to see a lot of them coming, and we're in no rush. We're not in a sprint, we're in a marathon. And this marathon is, if you ask me what stages we work at, we're 8% out of 100, we're just warming up. And you could do the math on the valuation. And therefore, We Live is going to be a tremendous success, mainly in creating a solution for this world that if we don't create, I'm not sure where it's going to come from, and it's very needed.
I have two more questions. I'm going to let you end on an easy note, let you sell us about a topic I'm really interested to hear about. But first, let me ask you one final tough question. As a business junkie, I followed you. In fact, the very first time I met you, I think you had just raised money at like $2 or $3 billion in your office. And I remember you saying to me, that's just the start. And I think I doubted you a little bit. And congratulations.
Thank you for the honesty.
Here you are, 17 billion. It's amazing. But as I've studied you, and as I studied the success of the company, you've been kind of studiously apolitical, or so I've seen. At least in public. And in your Baruch speech, I detected just a little bit of political commentary. And specifically, you talked about presidents and ministers and CEOs who lie to us. You mentioned the environment, while not a political statement. I detected maybe a subcurrent. Why do you feel now's the time to maybe start making a few more comments along those lines?
First of all, I want to congratulate you on asking a question that Jen didn't know was going to come. That's impressive, and you did keep the top.
Adam asked me Adam asked me to ask him the toughest questions here.
He said, Adam, I know we have a relationship, but it's my duty to ask you real questions. I said, please, as tough as possible. So for those of you who get a chance, I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube, you're welcome to watch the speech and actually get context behind the words that were just being used. And sometimes the danger, and I think in press, that's the danger sometimes, someone will take one sentence out of an entire speech and say, you said that, and I say, well, no, that's not what I said. What I actually said was a story, and I will give you the very short version of the story. I said that the we generation, and who is the we generation? The we generation does not discriminate between age, gender, race, or religion. The we generation understands that treating other people the way we want to be treated is the way to be. That being part of something greater than yourself is a privilege, and that privilege should be cherished. We should be grateful for it, but we also take a responsibility. Anyone who lives that life of privilege should know that you're responsible to live a meaningful life. And what I said is that as we're moving more and more into the future, and we're all connected through technology, through physicality, through transportation, through all the amazing things that are happening in the world, borders and boundaries are shifting. We as people are the we generation. And you can be Chinese, you can be Israeli, you can be from New York, you can be from Berlin, you can be from Saudi Arabia, you can be from any country on this earth. And as long as you subscribe to the same common values that we do, and as long as you believe in the same things that we believe, well, then you're a member of our tribe. Our tribe is global, and yes, of course, our tribe, and this is not specific to anyone because there is not one politician in the world today, and there is not one government in the world today that if we understood the politics behind them, we wouldn't have tremendous amount of criticism about all of them, and I bet we could catch all of them in 1,000 different things, so there's not even one that will not stand behind, that the we generation will cut slack to. And as people, we're gonna hold everyone accountable. It might take us, I said, a week, or a year, or a decade, but we will not stop. And we will come together, and that was the message, and that's really what it says. And I actually think it's apolitical is the word to use? Yeah. It's apolitical because WeWork is not, as much as we're from New York, and we are at Delaware currently, I'm not even sure I'm gonna say something, maybe it's not accurate, so I'm not gonna say what type of company.
We're a company.
We're a C Corp. We're a C Corp, I know that. Has something to do. I know that piece. But we are officially, in case anybody's wondering, a global company. And we don't look at the world as one country. We do not have a political opinion, neither right nor left, because our only political opinion is we care about this globe. It is our job to ensure that it doesn't blow up. And there are a lot of great people in the world right now caring, and we just want to bring them together. And if no one else is going to be the voice, then as long as we're needed, we will be the voice. And I hope a lot of people will join us, because I know this is a common voice, and we didn't invent any of this. This is every single person's here truth.
Amen. I'm going to go ahead and end on that note, because my next question would have paled in comparison, and I can ask him afterwards. Could everyone please join me in thanking Adam? I think you all see why we were so excited, on behalf of the Economic Club, Barbara, Terry, but also the NYC, to welcome Adam. I think we all, as New Yorkers and just global citizens, wish him great success, and please give him a large round of applause. Incredible, buddy. That's awesome. Incredible. Thank you.
Awesome. We're going to connect.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Tom. Thank you, Adam. It's a great conversation, lots of great lessons here. And culture today is obviously top of mind for lots of companies, and I think you spoke to the subject eloquently. And thanks, Tom, for leading the discussion and for your hospitality today and bringing us back to this great venue. Just some final notes about what's coming in the next 30 days is we have tomorrow Dr. Craig Thompson, is the very different subject. He's the CEO of Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and obviously of interest to everyone. And then next Thursday night we have Jeff Immelt, who made a major announcement just recently. And Jeff is going to be, Jeff of course is the chairman CEO of GE, and he'll have a dinner with us on next Thursday. And then we have Bruno Le Maire, who is just recently appointed Minister of Economy of France. So obviously very timely under the leadership of President Macron, which is very exciting. And then July 12th we have just announced Jay Clayton, who's the brand new chairman of the SEC. So great lineup coming up ahead of us in the next several weeks. Thanks everybody for your attendance and for your support of the Economic Club of New York. Thanks.